position is when it comes to the South Dakota Legislature's passage of educational reform. This educational reform provides for bonuses for highly rated teachers and the eventual removal of teacher tenure in South Dakota. Furthermore, would you support giving parents a voucher to send their children where they feel would best meet their child's needs?
Thank you. You know, it's been already brought up tonight, many things concerning the federal government trying to intrude into our state government, and our education system is one of those places. Just to address the question specifically, I'm still studying out what the governor has done. I see some merits to it. There's some things I have a lot of questions about yet. I do believe it's time to examine the system. I think it's time to take some of the power away from the unions, because so much of that money doesn't come to good teachers. And we've got some good teachers in South Dakota. We've got some great teachers. But I think we need to pay them more. And I hate to see money that we have go into union accounts and union things for, you know, I know we don't have collective bargaining, but those are my big concerns. Those are some areas I'll be working hard in. I really believe in education. I'm for the voucher system. I believe in homeschooling. Yet there's an attack. I mean, I found out, I believe today in the Argus Leader, somebody wrote this big deal that we can't have homeschooling because there's too much truancy involved. Well, they maybe have one person that didn't teach their kid at home, but they want to take that one child and erupt the whole home school system. And I don't have a box full of statistics here, but homeschoolers in anything I know about are excelling in every way in life. I mean, they go to universities, they excel in the universities, they're excelling everywhere. It's great. And yeah, I'm for the voucher system. I think parents ought to be able to choose where their children go. We don't have children anymore, but I have grandchildren. We're already faced with some of that with them. And I'd like to think that we could choose where they get their education. Basically, I'm not sure I got that whole question answered, but education is a big deal to me, and I agree somewhat with the governor that it needs to be examined. I believe this a 10-year thing has gotten out of hand, because I think we ought to have. And I did a little research on that, and we don't look too shiny here in South Dakota in some of those grading systems based on the union influence. So thank you very much.
I've been a proponent of a voucher system for a long time, for the very simple fact it changes the relationship between the parent and the school system. Instead of the school system providing an entitlement, now you have a buying public that is purchasing a good or a service. And I think that changes the relationship with the school board and the school administrators. I also think that public funded education has been one of the strong foundations of our country. That doesn't mean the government has to run the schools. And I think in some situations that there ought to be some other options. I'm a proponent of homeschooling. I'm a proponent of Christian schooling. I think charter schools are something that in at least some of our larger communities we ought to be able to take a look at. I don't know that it's feasible in some of the small rural communities where you don't have the population to support it. But I'm opposed to teacher tenure, and I'm in favor of being able to provide some incentives. I counter that with you need to be able to give enough local control to your school board that I don't know that everything ought to be mandated by the state and say this is how you do it, but I think you need to be able to give the school board some tools and some options. But this is a right to work state, and I think tenure flies in the face of that.
Well, I applaud Governor Daugaard for recognizing the need for education reform in the state of South Dakota. The original language of House Bill 1234 had a lot of things in there that were not acceptable. I mean, when we came back to the Cracker Barrels with that, we got an earful. And as a result of that, it became extremely watered down. The money came out of it, all the implementation became delayed. They made options for school boards to write their own system to get money to teachers, to get bonuses to teachers. They could opt out altogether. There's also in there still section 17 to 26, I believe, which is the governor's original language, if the school decides that they do want to go with the governor's original plan. The thing is, there's about somewhere between 60 and 90 ayes on this bill over the next year. And I voted for it in this watered down version because I felt that we needed to move forward, or we would have been back there next January trying to do the exact same thing. There's a lot of good things still in that bill. like I say, it's going to be studied, it's going to be looked at. It may get thrown out and replaced completely next year. But I think I applaud the government for trying to give money to teachers, recognizing a need for math and science at this point, but also giving the schools an option to get in there out of it.
I voted against this bill. It has some good things in it. I've been running a private school for 36 years as a part of my operation. I've never figured out how to pay my top 10% without creating havoc in the workplace. I've never figured that out. I've never had a contract. No one has tenure in my operation. So by example, I can't figure out how to work this thing, although I believe that science and math are critical for this country and that we need to promote that. How you do that without alienating the rest of the teachers, because Johnny has to read before he can learn science. I haven't figured that out. So based on my experience is how I voted. Now, free and public education is essential in this country. I think our school systems are very good in South Dakota, particularly in this district. We have one school that gets no state support whatsoever. Lee Dewitt, they get none, zero. Spearfish gets a significant amount. Not enough, by the way. It's messed up with the gaming work. Another story. But voucher system, I don't know if we have enough population to support that. I'm in support of the Christian schools. I think everyone has a right to start one. We have several in Spearfish, and everyone has a right to do that. I need more information about the voucher system before I would say yay or no on that particular issue.
As I recall, South Dakota's 50th. Shouldn't we be proud of ourselves? We're behind Mississippi. We got to do something. Whatever we do, we got to study it. We got to come up with something. We're a product of good teachers, most of us. Good teachers. You have to be good teachers. You got to encourage people to want to be good teachers. Make that commitment. I don't think we have to worry about the tenure. If you have a teacher that's tenured and it's not doing their job, you can get rid of them. There is a process for getting rid of them. It's not a guarantee that you're going to have a job for your lifetime. If you want this state to stay competitive, we've got to do something about education. We've got to improve the system that we have now. It's not always throwing money at it, but money does help. We've got to get on the ball and get rid of those things. Thank you.